Don't be scared, wonderful humans. It's just the Board Game Dads. My name is Anthony,
And my name is Eric.
and we are right in the middle of spooky season with y'all. And it's the first, well, I guess second technically, because we had a dad cast come out last week talking about Halloween, but this is the first of the Halloween focused
Right.
videos. We're going to be talking about a lot of games. And Eric, what is the so called theme for this particular
So the theme
video?
for this one is classic monsters, really classic Hollywood monsters. We're not
Yeah.
we're not talking about. And so right off the bat, we're eliminating ghosts because we've got a haunted house game coming up. So we're not even doing ghosts, and we're not doing any like mythical beasts or like cryptozoological things that may or may not have been around for a long time. So we kind of tried to narrow it down to specifically the kind of stuff that you see in movies.
Yeah. The classic, when it was whatever 40s, 50s, or 60s, and people were dressing up for Halloween, there were like kind of a handful of costumes that people probably were wearing, right? Besides, like some non-scary stuff, I'm sure, but in terms of monsters, just pretty narrow kind of group there overall, I think. So, growing up, did you have a favorite, Hollywood movie monster kind of thing?
Growing up, I did not really like movie monsters. I didn't like. I hate clowns, right? So it and Killer Clowns from Outer Space creep me out. Anything having to do with spiders creep me out.
Oh yeah.
But for like kind of the classic stuff, the older stuff, kind of like werewolf movies. I thought those were always kind of cool. And they've been redone a few times, and Van Helsing, and it's still cool. I'm still interested in that kind of stuff. What about you?
I watched a lot of Godzilla movies when I was
Mhm.
younger. When I went to Blockbuster, that was a section I went to right away because there were so many different kinds, and it had to be, I don't know, probably once a week I would go and get like a
Hmm.
new one, and I had a pretty big stretch of doing that. And I used to love that just because it was so, corny. But as a kid, I loved the giant monster toys and
Yeah.
dinosaur-looking things and things like that. So Godzilla versus whoever was always was always pretty cool.
Speaking of Godzilla versus whoever, I would when you said Godzilla, you reminded me of King Kong, and
Mm,
I'm not changing my answer. I still love the werewolves, but King Kong's cool. I guess like just a giant fuzzy animal, or I guess werewolves aren't really giant, or a murderous fuzzy animal, and that's got my heart.
yeah, I haven't seen any of the more recent Kong or Godzilla type movies. They look pretty interesting though. I guess I'll check them out
Yeah,
if they're on TV.
it's probably just the same movie with different special effects.
Pretty much. So, besides werewolves, is there another monster type that you feel is like begging for a new version or like a remake in terms of like a movie?
Well, so there's been a ton of remakes of the werewolves, and it's been a ton of vampire movies and everything like that.
Yeah,
um, I would love to see a Creature from the Black Lagoon remake.
that was going to be my
Right.
answer too.
Yeah, that would be cool. Because you see the Mummy with Brendan Fraser. I love that movie. I love the whole trilogy or quadrology. I don't know how many there are. I guess I don't love it that much. But the Creature from the Black, because right, there's only been one, maybe a sequel or something.
Yeah, you don't really hear a lot about him. I feel like he's one of the forgotten
Yeah,
monsters for sure. So I'd like to hear a little more about his origin story.
me too.
All right. But we're here to talk specifically about some games that feature these types of animals or creature, not animals, monsters, things like that. Before we get into our major picks, we usually do have a couple of honorable mentions. We'll see how many Eric comes up with today.
Ooh, my honorable mention. I forgot. Oh, right, I do remember. Fury of Dracula.
Mm,
It's it is not an easy game to learn or play. It's best with five,
okay.
but it's still going to be like a two, maybe a 2.5 hour game. Otherwise, it's not bad at three because there's always going to be one person that's Dracula and then four vampire or Dracula hunters. So if it's a 3 player game, one person's Dracula, and then two people
Oh,
each have two characters.
okay. I was going to ask you why not 4 players, but now I understand
Right,
why.
and then in a two-player game, one person's got 4 characters, so it's just there's a lot going on. The game's cool. It's it's a deduction game. Dracula's trying to go around and spread out it like his influence or something, and then everybody else trying to figure out where he is and then attack him. And it's a lot of fun. But like I said, if you don't have 2.5, 3 hours or so to play this, find another game that's deduction or vampire theme. But if you got 5 people and they really want to play this, it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you could definitely make a night out of this one for
Yeah,
sure. And a
around
very
Halloween.
a very popular game because there's been, I think, 4 editions now, maybe even 5, right?
It's been at
Like
least 3.
printings. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. Is that the only one you have?
Yeah, man. We
Ooh,
got
all
2
right.
more videos. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. Well, real quick, mine is a pretty small card game called Campy Creatures, which is pretty much right on theme here. It's one of those games where everybody has the same deck of starting cards, like a value 1 through 9 or 11 or whatever it is in this particular game, and each one is a different monster, and they all have different effects. And you choose one secretly, and then everybody reveals it. You compare values and stuff like that. The artwork is really cool on this. Every card looks like one of those like classic movie posters for that monster, which is pretty cool. I will say,
I've seen the artwork. It does. It,
yeah,
it looks cool.
I like it a lot. Like I would get like a print of one of those cards. It would be cool decoration. It doesn't play great with 2, which a lot of those types of games, I think that's kind of a downfall of them. But it's definitely fun and campy and great for gaming around this time of year. So Campy Creatures, check that one out. There's already, I think, at least 1 expansion, maybe even 2.
Hmm. I do just want to throw this out there real quick. I forgot to put my headphones on, so if the
Yeah.
audio is a little weird because my microphone's right here, so let me just go ahead and do that now. I'm a professional. All right. What's next?
I think it's time for some games.
Oh, that's true. It is time for some games, and I'm going first, right?
That's the notes that I have. Yes.
All right, man. Let's throw it up there. Let's see what we got.
Your first pick.
My first pick is Abomination: The Heir of Frankenstein. This is a 2 to 4 player game. Takes 90 to 180 minutes,
It's very
which
specific.
which may or may not be true. I found it to be a bit longer than 90 to 80 minutes. It was just a 2 player game, but 90 minutes for a 2 player game isn't happening. It's at least 120 minutes.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it's for ages 13 and up, which makes sense because the theme is very morbid and it's so what it is, it's a worker placement game with some resource management, and the resources that you're going to be like gathering are bones and blood and animal parts and organs and like muscle and crazy things like that, and then you're going to be using these to create body parts. And so the object of the game is I think the Frankenstein's monster, who I'm just going to call Frankenstein for the ease of it. He's got Victor Frankenstein's research, and he's holding this competition so that all these crazy scientists come and try to build another monster because he
Okay.
wants a companion. So that's like I guess the backbone of what you're doing and why you're doing it. Also, there's something about like the captain. He's trying to kill the monster. I don't remember anything about that, but so you gotta build up your body parts. You gotta first get them, and then they're like tissue, and then you gotta put skin on them. And it's like I said, it's morbid theme. It's I asked my wife, like before doing this video, what other word could I use to describe this, and we both came up with the same one. It's macabre, and it's just
Ah,
it's got that kind of that feeling, that gloomy feeling and everything. And it's really cool to play around Halloween. We got this as a gift, but when this came out, we had our eye on this. We were like, "Oh, this would be cool," and we finally got it as a gift, and it was cool. It's a little long for our taste, but if we're only going to take it out once a year around Halloween, that's not really that big of a problem because it
right, right,
wasn't
right.
that confusing or complex or anything. Um, it does have a long setup. There are a lot of pieces,
I
and
was gonna say it looks pretty tedious to set up. It looks like a lot of small
yeah,
things.
there's a lot of pieces. And another thing is that towards the last couple of rounds, like the very end of the game, you're spending a lot of time on that just that last round where you're like, okay, I have all these things. What do I do?
Mhm.
Because you can build this body part and upgrade this, and then you got to bring the body to life with energy, and it's very analysis paralysis inducing towards the end game. But the theme totally fits for Halloween, and it's again, there are a lot of bits and pieces, but the rules make sense. You're not going to be like, wait, what? So it's if you give it a little bit of time to learn the rules and set everything up, you're going to enjoy the game.
Is it the first person to build like a whole body is like the winner basically?
I think it's you have a certain amount of time to build your best, and then he's gonna pick the best one, and I don't know, ride off into the sunset with her or him.
My first pick here is about a type of monster. And I'm saying that in quotes because it's a weird sort of category because this particular character is not really monstrous in terms of like being terrifying looking, but they can do some pretty crazy stuff, and
And
that's
it depends
witches.
on how they're drawn.
Well, that's true. That's true. They could be pretty grotesque,
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah. But, when you see a very basic witch costume for Halloween, it's like black hat, dress, broom, and maybe like, I don't
cat,
know. Yeah, like a cat toy or or a real cat.
cauldron.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So my first game here is all about three very famous witches, I guess you would say, and that's because it's Disney's Hocus Pocus. Now, in this game, which is cooperative, by the way, you're playing these cards to this central cauldron board, as you can see there, and you're trying to get a certain, excuse me, a certain type of display of ingredient cards. That could be all ingredients of the same color, or all of exactly the same type, or the third option is they can be the same type and all different colors. The reason that's important is because depending on which one of those you get, you're going to stun one of the witches, one of the Sanderson sisters here. Now, the big catch in this game is that you are not allowed to really communicate with each other that much. On your turn, you are allowed to ask one question of one of the people playing with you, and then you play a card. So you can get pretty specific. It's almost like a go fish sort of thing, but you're not passing cards to people. But sometimes that answer to that question is not what you wanted to hear, and it doesn't really help you with your decision on which card to play. You're like, hey, Lauren, do you have, newt saliva? Nope. Okay. Well, I can't ask you any more questions, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this down. Now, there's a couple ways to get around that ish, and one of them is if you play one of these ingredient cards that has the cat, Binks, I believe his name is, you then have your hand played out face up. So now your hand is public knowledge, and everybody can see what it is that you have, and that'll stay that way until someone else plays a Binks card, and then they'll show their cards, whatnot. So that's one way to get around it. And then you do throughout the game have some special abilities that you can use one time to sort of rearrange things or help to get the witches out of the way for a bit because they're going to be casting spells on you because they do not want you to fulfill these goals, obviously. So they're going to do all kinds of nasty stuff like make you discard cards or take away one whole pile from the cauldron and things like that. It's definitely not an easy game. We've played it a few times. I think we might be like 50-50 win loss. I'd have to double check the records for
Hmm.
sure. But um, again, another one that unfortunately I've only played two players. And again, when you're doing a mechanism where you're asking questions, you want to try to be able to at least split it up a little bit when you're doing that thing.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like a back and forth that gets a little bit old, especially if someone does have their cards face up, then you're not asking anything, right? Like if I see Lauren's cards, what am I going to ask her?
right.
So I'll do something stupid like, did you know that I don't have any orange cards? So, I mean, it's a funny way to kind of get around it every once in a while. But for the price, this one's always on sale. It's great. And if you love the movie, it's kind of a no-brainer.
I've had my eye on this one for a while, and because it's Hocus Pocus theme, right? It's already got that witch and Halloween theme, and because it's cooperative.
Yeah,
And I was hoping it was going to play well with two. And after you described that, it does not sound that great with two. Now,
yeah.
what is the age range on this? I don't know if you said that.
I did not. Let me see. I think I had this pulled up actually. Hmm.
That's a cool. Is it the first player token right there? The cat.
No, that's just Bink. So when you play a card that has his symbol on it, you then put him in front of you, and that's when you reveal your cards and you play face up
That
until.
is a cool looking cat maple.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really good one actually.
Yeah,
So this is ages 8 and up, which I think totally makes sense.
yeah. So I'll probably get this and just throw it on the shelf for another 6 years.
Well, what is cool about this, I know we talk about game boxes a lot. This one comes in one of those boxes that looks like a book, which is pretty cool. So it looks like a spell book. Um, it's
It's
fun to.
funny. It's funny that you say that is pretty cool because I think that's terrible.
Why?
Just put it in a box. Come on.
But it's like thematic.
I don't want thematic. I want it. I want it to fit on my shelf.
It
I
does
don't.
fit. It's not like it's a weird
It's not good
shape.
enough to stand out.
Yeah, but it's not like it's a weird shape. Like it's still a rectangular prism shape. It just has like a rounded side. It's better than tin.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But it is kind of weird.
So that's Disney's Hocus Pocus, a fun little cooperative card game.
All right.
What's next, sir?
So my final game is called Smash Up. Now, specifically, I think it's called the Monster Smash. Oh yeah, there it is, Monster Smash. So this is an expansion that you can play on its own. Then it's only a two-player game, but otherwise,
Mhm.
Smash Up, the base game, is it's really popular. It's I think it was designed by Paul Peterson, right? I'm not sure. It's not like it says it right there twice. And it's a 2 to 4 player game. It plays in about 45 minutes, and that's about right. And it plays for ages 12 and up. And the board game geek community says that it plays 10 and up. So it's you can play this with a 10-year-old. And really, it's an area control game. It's got some take that and some hand management. And if you look on Board Game Geek, it has deck crafting, which it's not deck crafting. You take two different factions and you shuffle them together. That's not really. I mean, I guess yes, that's deck crafting,
That's a fancy name for
right?
for what you're doing, really.
But that's what it is. You take two factions and you shuffle them up together, and then that's what you're playing as. So you can take any you can take the mad scientists and the vampires, boom, and those are all the cards. Half of them
Hmm.
are going to be scientists, whatever their specific mechanism that they're good at is, and then the other half of the cards are going to be vampires and whatever they're good at in the game.
Right.
And they have a ton of content for this game. There's just a whole bunch of stuff, but basically there's going to be I think it's 3 locations, but that might be in just a two-player game. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah, I think it scales. Like I think it's locations is number of
Okay.
players plus one. I
And
think.
then the cards in your hand are going to be put out. Or, I'm sorry, the cards in your hand, there's going to be action cards and there's going to be minion cards. And the
Hmm.
minions are going to be numbers that are going to, the more numbers on a location, the quicker it's going to get defeated. And that's how you win the game. You defeat the most locations.
Right.
But it's a cool game. And like I said, it's got a ton of content. And so the Monster Smash expansion comes with Mad Scientist, which is on the left here, where it's like Frankenstein,
Hmm.
Igor, and some of that kind of stuff, and then Vampires, which has looks like Elvira,
And
and
is
then
that
there's also
Shaft?
where what's that?
Is that Shaft?
That's Night Stalker. So I think he's supposed to be based on Blade, the comic book character, or
Oh,
or there was
okay.
like a real character. I did air quotes, but you can't see me. There was a fictional character written in some vampire about a Night Stalker, and then Blade was based on him.
Hmm.
I really don't know. Maybe somebody can comment down below and tell me.
I bet Evan knows.
I bet he does. And then finally, we got the werewolves, which they're werewolves. Like I said before, I love werewolves. Full moons, they're dogs. What's not to love about that? Now, this expansion also comes with giant ants, which I didn't find as important, so I didn't include a picture of some of those cards.
Okay.
But it's a fun game. It's really, I look at it as a Halloween game because it's got so many different things. I can play it. I can play werewolves. I can play, I got a bunch of the expansions, not all of them. And you can play ghost dinosaurs, and it's cool. It's fun. It's there's not really that much going on.
Yeah, it's pretty simple concept. I find the bookkeeping to be a little tedious at times
Right.
because there's so many of the cards that affect other cards that are at bases and things like that. Because just to rewind to the base cards, every base card has a threshold value,
Right.
and the minions you're playing there have values as well. And if all the minions at a base, sorry, add up or exceed that number, that base is finished and it scores points. So you're constantly changing the value of what's going on at each base, and that could be a little hard to keep up with, I think.
I agree. It
But
doesn't get off the shelf that often, but it
no,
does.
it's cool. It's a cool concept. It really
It
is.
gets off the shelf when there's like a whatever random weird holiday that you and I are going to celebrate, like I don't know, Elvis Day, and then all right, let's check out Smash Up because there's like an Elvis impersonators expansion or something, and then you can play as that, and that's cool to me.
Well, it's funny in our Dadcast last week we talked about how broad
Right.
Halloween has become, right? And I mean, costumes are kind of a good measure of that, where you're not going to see everyone dressed up as strictly a monster, right? There's all kinds of stuff now. There's aliens, and then there's superheroes and things like that. So Smash Up is like the perfect Halloween game because almost every one of those factions could be considered some kind of, you know, make believe thing that somebody could dress up as at some point,
Or a
and even
monster.
or a monster. And even before this expansion, base game had ghosts, right? And
I don't know if it had ghosts.
I think ghosts were one of the original factions in this game.
I am not sure.
Okay.
But I will tell you this. I know that when I first played this game, I think I played your copy. I only played it like a handful of times. And I remember after maybe the first game or two, realizing that, hey, the dinosaurs have like the most powerful cards. And so I was like, I want to be the dinosaurs in the next one. And I wasn't able to, because of the card draft or the
Mm,
faction drafting. And then whoever was the dinosaur won, and I was just kind of bummed, like that stinks that it can be so lopsided in my head, at least. From
right.
first play, like here I am playing maybe as the ghost, who knows, and they're doing 0 damage and 1 damage, and you put down like a T-Rex and he does like 7 damage, and I'm like, how am I going to compete with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, I think right off the bat the game didn't seem that balanced, but with the more content that they keep on putting out, at this point I have no idea who's got high power cards or anything like that. Whenever I play, I'm just going to take two random ones. Maybe I'll find the one that's not unwrapped yet, and I'll be like, "Oh, I haven't played as the kitty cats. Great, I'm going to be the kitty cats, and I'm going to be the ninjas."
You can have some factions that just do not work that well together, though, and
Right,
sometimes like not be able to really get the full effect of some of the cards that you want.
but
But
what are you going to do?
what are you gonna do? There's plenty of options out there. All right. My last pick coming up here is certainly the first one I think that popped into both of our heads when we decided to do this particular video because it really, really encompasses those classic, and in this case, universal monsters, which is what this game is based on, and that is the very popular Horrified. So, Board Game Geek has Horrified as ages 10 and up, with the community, rather, the publishing 10 and up, community 8 and up. And I think that's fair. It is a family game. It's a cooperative game. And in this game, you're going to be playing as, different heroes trying to somehow eradicate the monsters. Now, very clearly here, I want to make it very clear that these particular miniatures do not come in the game. This is one of the very, very special upgrades that Eric has for his copy of Horrified.
Yeah,
Remind us where you got these from.
I got these. So we were super lucky. These are Funko mystery minis, and you buy one and you got like maybe 12 or 15 different characters that you could get, and you could end up buying 30 of them and not getting every single character from this game. And we got all these, we got 3 extras, so we got every single character for this game and then 3 extras, so we didn't waste a lot of money. And these look so cool. I love this upgrade so much, and I'm very disappointed because I just got the new Horrified in the mail the other day. Haven't played it yet, but I'm not going to be able to upgrade it like this, so it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Yeah.
Do they take up too much room on the board, or it's not that big of a deal?
No, those spaces are pretty big.
That's true.
And then there's space in between the different spaces for you to move. So yeah, no, it's perfect. One of them doesn't stand wonderfully,
Hmm.
but 85% of the time he stands with no problem.
What is the Invisible Man wearing?
It looks like Hugh Hefner's robe.
Yeah. Anyhow, in this game, you're going to be traveling around the village here to these various spots. The monsters will be chasing you and chasing villagers, and you're going to be playing cards that can let you do some cool stuff. But essentially, you're collecting items. All right, so there's going to be these items scattered throughout the board at different locations. There's red, blue, and yellow, and they all have different values on them. That's important because you're going to be collecting these things and then basically, cashing them in at some point to do something to the monster. Now, this game does come with 6 different monsters that you can play against. You could play against any number of them if you really wanted to. I think they suggest starting with 2 and going from there. But what's really cool about this is they all play very differently. So they all have different win conditions on how you're basically defeating them. So we've got Frankenstein and the Bride here, which count as one monster. They're on one card together. And for example, their condition is you want to basically teach them to be human and fall in love, and that's how you know, and I'm doing air quotes as well, defeat them because you're not always killing these particular monsters. For the Wolfman's case, I think you're trying to just cure him of his ailment and things like that. But Dracula, straight up, you're trying to stake him, I think.
Yeah.
So lots of cool monsters in this one. And a good combination of stuff because you can always play with different monsters. Plus, you're playing with different, characters that you're doing, which all have special abilities as well. And there's a bunch of goofy villagers that pop up, and they're always getting in the way, but you're trying to save them, and they can give you some cool stuff. Oh, and there's our buddy creature from the Black Lagoon,
Hmm.
looking all purple there. Eric, when you play this, do you have a particular method to choosing which monsters you play against?
I do not.
Okay,
If we played it recently, I'll try to not choose the last monsters we played against.
sure.
But also, now we've played this game a bunch, and we love it. We love this game so much. It's one of our favorites, and we've never played with 3 monsters. We only play with 2 monsters,
Mm,
and I think we might have lost once, but otherwise, we've got a pretty good record. And I'm considering maybe doing 3 monsters.
yeah, we've tried it a few times. It's definitely not easy, but it's doable.
Yeah,
Although it depends on how many players you have. I don't know if I would do it with just
two.
2.
Oh, okay.
We should add though on that note that this is a game you can play remotely if both parties own this game. You obviously both have it set up, and it's not as fiddly as I thought it was going to be. I mean,
Hmm.
basically, when the way we do it anyway, when we play with Steve and Mariella quite often, one of us will just kind of separate the item tokens by color. And so when the other person is pulling them out of the bag, it's just like, hey, there's a red 6, and it's
Got it.
usually the same item. it's like a fire poker or whatever. Blue 3 goes here, and that's pretty much it. Obviously, keeping track of where people are, making sure you're on the same page. But other than that, this actually works really well
Hmm.
remotely. So I'm excited to try the new one. I have no reason to doubt that it doesn't also play remotely well, but we'll have to open it up and check it out for sure.
Another great thing about this game is you can pretty much find this game anywhere. You can find it at
Yeah.
Target. You can find it probably at like 7-Eleven or something. Like anywhere that sells board games, Horrify is being sold there.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, all right. So since this is the premier game that we're going to be talking about, we have some facts about
That's
this game.
right.
So for the F, which is fun for the family, I gave this a 2. 2 out of
And
2.
yeah, I was
This
gonna
is
say, just to
fun.
be clear, 2 points possible per letter here in our
And this
rating system.
and so this says ages 10 and up, and the board game community says that ages 8 and up, so
Hmm.
you can, because it's cooperative as well, so you can really kind of help them. But yeah, fun for the family, absolutely. 2 out of 2. Does it appeal to the age range? It does, because it's got monsters and kids love monsters. And the artwork's really nice considering it's, oh, well, it's monsters from, the 50s and the 60s. It doesn't matter. It's still got a pretty cool feel to it. And
Right.
yeah,
And I would argue that the appeal is there also because these monsters are so classic. They've
right.
never really gone away, right? There's iterations of these monsters in cartoons and books and things like that where kids are going to know what these are. Maybe the creature from the Black Lagoon they might not know, which is why it needs a new version of
A
it, perhaps.
remake.
But I mean, everyone knows Dracula, everyone knows Frankenstein, everyone knows the werewolf. This is classic stuff.
The Mummy as well. I don't think we
Yeah.
actually mentioned the Mummy in this video.
Yeah, maybe not.
Mummies, they love Halloween too. So yeah, so another 2 points for the appeal, because
All right.
it and even, well, I guess that's components. All right, so for components, the minis are cool looking. They're nice colors and everything, and they're fine. Mine are obviously much better, but the cards are pretty flimsy. So I gave components 1.5. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I do love the board in this game, though.
Oh yeah.
The board is great. There's something about the board that feels nostalgic to me. It just looks like a game that could have easily existed when we were children.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It
absolutely.
just has that look to it. But no, I agree. Definitely not a perfect score for that one.
All right, what about T?
So teachability, the core concept here is not difficult to teach per se. You're collecting the items, moving around the board. You have action points, right? And that's, I'll do this for one, do this for two, blah blah blah. The difficult part comes in because you are playing against different monsters that have different abilities and different win conditions. So, every time you teach a new monster, you're going to be, well, teaching a new monster. So not the same exact simplicity as another game that probably we've talked about for teachability, but
Right.
it's definitely not super difficult either.
So what do you think?
I guess we do another 1.5.
1.5. All right. And then finally, skill sets.
So if we're talking about specifically, younger folks with this, the cooperative aspect is a skill set that is beyond, you know, important. I mean, this is something that not just for board games, but in life in general, being able to work with a team and, understanding how to delegate responsibility and accept responsibility for things in terms of a group plan is pretty important. In terms of skill sets specifically for board games, I guess action point allocation is the main thing here. Like, how do you want to spend your turn? You get these 4 or 3 or 5 points of action, depending on which character you are. How can you really efficiently use your turn, right? And what I just thought of, going back to what I said about the cooperative aspect, there's a lot of times in this game where a monster will move, but that monster will be in equal distance from more than one player. And when that happens, as a team, you have to decide where that monster is going. That might be something that's difficult for younger folks to accept, right? Even if the logic is there. I mean, usually it's, hey, you've got, 6 items, I've got 2. The odds are that I will have more of a chance of getting knocked out if I have less items. But that might not be easy for a kid to swallow all the time. They might feel that they're getting picked on, but it's not the other players that are doing it. It's the game.
One other thing I just wanted to bring up about the skill sets involved is that as they're learning these different monsters, you play one game and you play against one, maybe 2 monsters. Oh yeah, I understand this game. And then the next time you play, they understand everything, and then you bring in a new monster, and then it's the same thing, and it just doesn't change the difficulty, but it
Right.
tweaks the rules just a little bit, that they kind of have to learn it on the fly. And I
Yeah.
think that's cool that's how this game works.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're still using the same basic mechanism. So like you're collecting these red items. They're just going to do something different for this monster than they did last time. What's our grade for skill set then?
We got a 9.0,
Oh,
which
that
I
total.
think
Okay.
is, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, skill set. I gave that a 2.
Got it.
I don't know about you, but yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a near perfect score. This is a really, really great game. So those are the facts about Horrified. Now you know.
yep.
All right, folks, so we're coming down to the end here. Do want to remind you to leave us some comments. This particular video, we'd love to know what some of your favorite classic monsters are. Maybe you have a classic monster movie that you love very much, and maybe you played some other games that you think would fall into this category. Let us know. Don't forget that we have 2 more Halloween episodes in the next 2 weeks, so we are not done with spooky season yet.
Mm-mm.
Eric, anything else you'd like to add before we close the coffin on this one?
Uh, nope. Gotcha.
Awesome. All right, my friends, we will see you next week. Stay spooky.